We can't say the future without AI. I mean, there's no way around it. 50% of workers now believe AI is going to improve their experience. When I come into the meeting room, I need a way to incorporate my AI with what's going on in the meeting. It's almost a bring your own AI type of a concept. Most of what we do in our day-to-day is going to change significantly.
Hear the latest AV trends and predictions in this episode of Crestron's Smarter Spaces podcast on your preferred podcast platform.
We went through this several years ago, some counterfeit document cameras that made it into the U.S. But, the deal is these were very good counterfeits. We didn't have any problems. They looked just like the real product. The logo looked right on the box.
That begs the question of why don't they just sell it under their own name?
Yeah,
if it works well, then they don't have all the overhead of this big company. Sell it under your own name and start a great company.
Guys, if you worked this hard at a legit job, you wouldn't need to be criminals.
On this episode, we discuss counterfeit concerns, hybrid tech, and tariffs. All that and more on EdTech. EdTech episode 128, Feedback on Feedback. Hello, AV friend. Welcome to another episode of EdTech. As always, we have our awesome panel of higher ed AV professionals, Ernie Bailey. Hi, Ernie.
Hello, Aaron. Good to be back.
And Scott Tyner. Hi, Scott.
Hi, Aaron, and nice to see you all.
And today's special guest joining us for this episode is Jennifer Unitis from Wake Tech. Welcome, Jennifer.
Hi, thank you.
How about you tell us a little bit about what you do over there?
Well, that's kind of a loaded question on what I do. I'm the Associate Director of Academic Technologies in the ITS department. So basically, the short version is I oversee all of the audiovisual design, integration, professional development, and then I also am responsible for the learning management systems, the student help desk for our learning management systems, faculty professional development as it relates to technology and teaching, and our testing centers. We also have a large group of instructional designers.
Woo. So you don't do anything at all.
No, my days are pretty good.
Yeah, but as per very typical at higher ed, like we wear all the hats.
Yes, we do. And it makes the days amazing, and we do a lot to make sure that our students have everything that they need.
Excellent. Yeah, because at the end of the day, that's really what it's all about, the students.
Absolutely.
Well, all right, let's jump into the articles that we read here. So our first article comes to us from AV Network. Shure collaborates to address large-scale counterfeiting network. So especially in these times where we have to do more with less, what's the potential impact of counterfeit gear in education?
We went through this several years ago with some counterfeit document cameras that made it into the U.S. I found out, after I had purchased them and deployed them, that they were counterfeit. The integrator that we had worked with to purchase them arranged for a replacement for us, and we were able to just swap them out. But, the deal is these were very good counterfeits. We didn't have any problems. They looked just like the real product. The logo looked right on the box. The box was the right color. So, it just, makes us go back and question the integrity of some of the suppliers. That was the biggest thing. But since they did come to us, I heard about it first from the integrator before I read about it online or from any other universities. So I felt, we were dealt with fairly, but I mean, what can you do about it?
Yeah, I think the things that we've seen in the past have to do with the safety, mounting points, particularly on speakers, or something to do with fire hazards, or even today, I would wonder about the back doors that are into IoT devices that might come counterfeited. So to me, it's making sure, and Ernie did this, right? Making sure you're buying from a reputable dealer. But like Ernie said, you buy from a reputable dealer, the box comes, it looks like it's supposed to. I guess the only thing we can do is support a company when they go after counterfeits and say, good for you, keep doing it, because we're the ultimate victims, really.
Yeah, and we didn't have any of those issues with this device. There were no safety issues on the device that sits on the table beside the computer, or so that, there's no mounting. It at that point, it did not have an internet connection, a network connection of any kind. So there wasn't really no threat. So, and it was not a real expensive device. So,
well, I was going to say that begs the question of why don't they just sell it under their own name? If it works, it works well. Then they don't have all the overhead of this big company. Sell it under their own name and start a great company.
Right.
That is interesting. I had never really thought about the motivation of why potentially they, if it is a working product that because I could definitely see if it's a product that doesn't even work. Like straight out the gate, they're just sending you a box. And then when you try to be like, hey, customer service, why isn't this working? They'd be like, what are you talking about? That's not
one of our serial numbers.
Yeah. And I feel like that potentially could be one of the things that would be most aggravating in higher ed, is if something just didn't work at all. And then you're stuck with these things that you spent money on that we're already trying to, buy more than we can, as much as we can get for the money we have. And then you're like, oh, great. Now I'm stuck with a bunch of empty boxes.
Now we get it. I mean, I think Scott's comment is very serious right now. I don't have any AV gear that we don't, connect to our network and expect it, to be safe, to work properly. So someone's putting something here that I'll hang on my network. I've trusted all their products, so why should this be different? And then it causes havoc throughout the entire university and our hospital.
Well, and especially if you're buying it through your regular channel.
Right.
I can see if you decided to go on Amazon and go a little rogue and you didn't get your Shure mics from the Shure authorized dealer, then maybe you get what you pay for. But
I was just thinking, thank goodness that you did have a reputable distributor, because they could have just swept that under the rug, and luckily they didn't. Especially if you did have to call something in. I mean, Aaron, like you said, if you do kind of go rogue and you get it from somebody else, then it's more expected. But when it is a reseller that should be getting the right product, that's definitely alarming, and hopefully it's not occurring more often, especially with the networked devices.
Well, on to a little more pleasant note. This next article can be found on Rave Pubs and was written by Scott Tyner. Google Adaptive Audio for Hybrid Classrooms, a step towards seamless learning. So if we had $1 for every time we encountered feedback on a video call, we all could afford to go to ISE pretty much. But what a great example of taking feedback, literally, and creating a solution. So how are we making hybrid learning better? What are things that are out there that what can we do?
I mean, I think for me, when I think of any of this, and I even start out that blog talking about the fact that I think hybrid meetings for the most part are difficult to attend and difficult to be part of. And so if there's 2 or 3 people who are going to be remote, and especially if you're sharing screens, I'm usually we're all going remote. But a lot of that is because if you bring in a computer and you want to share something, like you just said, I'm going to get on Zoom to share it. Now, well, turn your mic down, turn your speakers off, do this, and it's always just this mess. And so to me, that idea, and this is something we all excel at in higher ed, is just creating an easy, barrier-free environment. Somebody brings in a laptop, opens it up, and they don't have to worry about muting their mics or muting their speakers. They recognize themselves and they go ahead and do it in the system themselves. They can share their screens easily. That way they can read what's on the screen. They're not trying to squint for what's up in the front of the room. And often the other one I think, particularly if you're sitting around a conference table or in a classroom, is that while you look at your screen, you are not all staring up at something in the front of the space. So there seems to be more interaction there. You're more focused on what's around you. But I think the other piece for education I had to write in there, and that's something I think we all think about, is that this only really works when everybody has a device, and that every student has some kind of laptop, Chromebook, iPad, whatever you're going to be using in your institution.
Yeah. Digital equity is so important too. Like even if people are like hybrid, and you have a device, but maybe your internet is not great, but yeah, it's trying to solve those equity issues, I think, to create a better experience for all around. But yeah, I absolutely agree with you, Scott, about attending meetings where there's only a couple people hybrid. You might as well just all go online, because you end up with looking at the side of somebody's face for half the time because they're looking at the screen or looking at somebody else who's talking, and it creates this strange environment.
I have to say, from a teacher's perspective, I do have past teaching experience as well. It takes a special person to be able to pull that off. You have to have so much energy and charisma, and I've seen faculty who have accomplished what feels like something that could not be accomplished, and every one of their students, within reason, you're always going to have one, are engaged and are doing well and are staying focused. But that is rare, honestly. I mean, even in a meeting like you were talking about, when you have people who are in person and online, it's hard to stay focused. It's hard to not check your email or look at your phone and see what's going on social media or whatever.
Yeah, I feel like you have to be able to do multiple things at the same time in order to engage the remote people as well as the in-person people. And it's easy to lose track of one or the other, trying to do both at the same time. Oh.
I think that's true. And that's a great point that Jennifer made, because I think a lot of people would say, teaching with hybrid, just like teaching in a classroom. And I'd say, well, sit in a meeting. How often have you sat in a meeting with two people up on the screen and you completely forget about them? And it's like you feel like they're knocking on their screen, like, hey, pay attention to me here. I mean, think if you're teaching a classroom, you have 10 people on Zoom, you forget about them. You have to actively pay attention to them.
Yeah, we went through something like this, or we're going through it right now, really. Our faculty are not teachers. They are medical professionals, or healthcare professionals that are teaching. And we actually teach a class for them on how to teach hybrid. Most of them refuse to join online. They come to the classroom because they don't like online or hybrid teaching, but they're having to do it. So, then they get up there and they complain about trying to find a parking place and how slow the elevators are. And, but no, they won't join online.
Right. Can't please everybody,
but
we certainly try.
You can't please this person no matter what you do.
So, speaking of making classrooms better, the next article that we had read is on AVNation.tv, written by Aaron Marmoran. That's me. Oh. So kind of jumping off of Scott's article, did we see anything else that came out of ISE that we'll want to be using in classrooms in the future, or, anything that resonated with you?
There were a few other things with ISE that resonated with me, and a lot of them had to do with accessibility and translation services, and the ability to see that on your screen, or the ability to display that, or your AirPods and the translation ability in your AirPods. I know that wasn't necessarily an ISE thing. There was one that there was a chair that had translations on the back of it on a little screen. And I often think when you see something at ISE or any of these trade shows, it's more about the concept than it is about the actual first product you see. So there was these chairs that could be used in theaters or operas or whatever, and it had a little screen in front of you, And so you could see closed captioning or whatever. And I'm sitting there thinking, well, really what this is going to eventually be is a place to put your phone that has a wireless charger, right? Because why would putting a screen in that seat's just so expensive, and it's going to have to get upgraded, and it's going to get broken, and everybody's got a phone. So yeah, put your phone there, connect via Bluetooth, and you can get all the same thing. But that concept is just kind of, oh, well, that's pretty cool that you can do that.
Yeah, that makes me think about like even that the Google Adaptive Audio, like how long is it going to be before everybody else does it? Before
Yes.
Microsoft puts it in Teams, before Zoom, puts that in their products, like that's a good point, that it's kind of a launching off point of that initial concept.
Yeah, and you're not just doing the audio, but now you're doing video as well. They've got their laptop open. Why don't they grab the video from their laptop and use that rather than the camera that's 30 feet away at the front of the room?
I love that aspect of the accessibility and the universal design. UDL is something that obviously a lot of us are familiar with and push. But just knowing that, in the AV world, that's really starting to be more of a focus, it certainly makes me happy. We try very hard to make sure that all of our spaces have anybody who has, hearing impairment or visual impairment, things like that, that we're taking that into consideration. People who are in wheelchairs and a lot of the ones that we can do something about when it comes to, accessibility and AV. And I don't know about you all, but now that I'm in my 40s, I struggle with being able to even see, my normal display at home. So having, different things available for different people is certainly important. And like you point out in your article, Aaron, it's helpful. While the intent is for people who have disabilities, it really is helpful for so many other people to have those things available.
And by maintaining that technology and things, you keep your entire system up to date. If you have to make sure that the assisted listening is working, or whatever you're doing for visual impairment is working, then you're making sure your whole system is working. So it's kind of a good way to keep check on everything. I like you're talking about, the flexible infrastructure and prioritizing standards. I've never liked working with proprietary systems, and we were able to get away from even more of them as COVID hit, and we saw Zoom and then Teams and other people taking over and joining the world where we used to have dedicated codecs that had to talk to the same brand codec at the other end. Now, we can all talk to each other and cross platforms and whatever else. And it makes our designs, I think, better as we're designing classrooms. We have a standard classroom design. We got like 3 designs that we do for classrooms, and that's it. So when an instructor walks through a classroom, they can tell by the basic layout of the room what the touchscreen is going to look like and what buttons are going to have to push. It's going to have the same label on it every time. Even if it's, different brand display or computer or whatever, the interface for the instructor does not change. And I think that's a big deal. And, we, for years, did, one-off designs. Every classroom had its own custom program written, and everything was fine. Well, it took 2 to 3 months to flip a classroom.
Right.
Now we're doing it in 2 weeks, and, everything works. It's the same. We looked at the requirements for a classroom, and 80 to 90% of everything was the same every time. So we quit designing for edge cases and designed for the commonality. And every now and then someone will come up for one of those edge cases. And if they come to us 2 weeks ahead of time, we can figure out a way to make it work in that room, in any room. And then the next class after that one, it's back to normal.
Yeah, I feel like in the end, it's better for the students when we can give faculty that like similar user experience from room to room. So it's not like they don't have to relearn everything when they're like, oh, this semester I'm teaching somewhere else. They already know what they're doing, and they can save that time and that little extra brain energy that they're like, I don't want to have to focus on the technology. I want to be able to just deliver my content. And, that's always nice. And then from a support standpoint, it's great because it's pretty similar too from room to room, even though maybe the exact label on the components might be a little different, but you kind of know support wise what you're getting into.
We're a little bit unique in that we don't have rooms dedicated to a professor or even to a college. Our rooms are shared among 5 colleges and a graduate school. So it might be medicine class from 8 to 10, a pharmacy class from 10 to 11, nursing from 11 to 12, then a grand rounds meeting for the college, for the internal medicine people over lunch, and then it's a public health classroom all afternoon. So it's got to be able to meet everybody's needs, and it's got to be the same. And if we have to move somebody from room A to room B, there's nothing new for them to learn when they cross the hall.
So this last article was written by Peter Hansen for Commercial Integrator. How tariffs will shape the pro AV industry. Woo! Now,
I'm in the middle of that right now. One of my vendors, while they're an international company, the office that works with me, I haven't figured this out, is in Canada. Even though they have places closer to me, that's who they chose to assign to work with our team. And I've got a big quote out right now that I'm trying to turn into a purchase order. And, they're calling me every few hours, say, tariffs might take place before you get me a purchase order, and I can't honor the prices if I don't have the paperwork in place. So, and, I said, well, we have a procedure we go through here where 75 people have to sign off on a contract. I don't understand that, but that is the rule. I'm stuck with it. So I've got, all sorts of rush orders placed on the documentation, but nothing I can do. And I just hope that we can get them an order. They can get the orders placed before tariffs kick in.
Yeah, there's no question it'll affect us. I know I've asked around a couple different places, and of course it changes week to week. But there's no doubt it's going to affect us. And I think that I've got actually a couple blogs coming out about this exact issue, because I think that what we learned in COVID is actually going to be useful for the next few years, right? Which is you have to be flexible. You have to. You can't sit around worrying all the time about what's going to happen next, but you can make some educated guesses and plan for it. This article talks about stocking up, right? We're buying our stuff right now for summer installs that we're going to put towards next year's budget. And then Aaron's piece fits in perfectly, right? With think about standards, but not proprietary equipment. That's another thing that we kind of learned during COVID. So I think you have to be prepared. You have to be ready. I think the good thing is, like in COVID, this isn't a industry specific thing. This is a worldwide thing. Everybody knows that a majority of chips come from overseas, and a lot of the electronic equipment does as well. So everybody's aware that this is happening.
One of our technology manufacturers, not necessarily for AV, I just found this out today from my procurement manager. They now have basically a survey. Every time that we're purchasing, we have to fill it out. Will this equipment be used within the United States? Will it be used in what, area, basically? Will it be in a classroom? Will it be in an office? Things like that. So I think we're probably going to end up seeing more of that across the board whenever we're purchasing anything technology based.
Right. Yeah, because there's always a bit of a ripple effect too. Like yes, there may be specific countries that are being targeted with higher tariffs than others. But where does their supply chain come from? And even if it's a country that's the US doesn't have a problem with right now, but they may get their parts from somewhere else, and then it all kind of trickles down into a problem. So hopefully we don't quite end up having the same sort of supply chain issues like we did during COVID times, but at least we kind of have that experience to look back on and kind of hopefully learn a little bit from, and hopefully our manufacturer friends have learned their lessons too.
Well, that's a big piece there, and I think is important that our manufacturer friends are honest with us about what's going on, or honest about us where their equipment's coming from, and we do the same to them. So if we know that we've got a chance that grants are being cut or the like, that we be honest with our integrators, you can share this with our manufacturers, that this project might get canceled, but also for the manufacturers to tell us where things getting created. The example you talked about is, it's up here in Maine, is perfect, right? We have a whole bunch of trees. We cut them down. We send them right across the border to Canada. They make them into 2x4s and they send them back over here to the United States. And so you might think, oh, we've got plenty of trees in the United States and we can cut our own lumber. And yet you're getting hit by something you wouldn't even think happens because our borders are so close. So you might think, oh, this is a company that makes most of their stuff in the United States, but you don't know where all the little parts are coming from. And so those manufacturers would be really helpful to let us know what they see coming, because it's out of their hands as well. So it's not like they're just trying to raise prices on us.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. So yeah, and advice to any of you higher ed tech managers out there that are kind of sitting on and waiting for projects for the summer, you may want to start getting those RFQs out now. And hope that, that date of expiration that they put on that quote will be honored if those prices do get racked up. This was another awesome episode, everybody. I feel like just when I think like I hit peak good episode, I'm like, I don't know. This was a pretty darn good conversation. But alrighty, now's the time in the program where I ask everybody how you can get in touch with them. So Jennifer, in case somebody does want to get in touch with you after this episode airs, how might they?
The best way would be at Jennifer Unitis on I think pretty much every social media outlet, and or going to EDTech's website and you can search me there.
And how about you, Ernie?
You can find me on LinkedIn usually.
Okay. And how about you, Scott?
I'm on LinkedIn, Scott Tyner, and you can find me once a month over at Rave Pubs with a blog.
And as for me, you can find me on LinkedIn, on the HETMA community, and each month here on AVNation's EdTech podcast that can be found on YouTube or wherever you listen to your favorite podcasts. You can also find other AVNation podcasts like Women in AV, AV Career Mastermind, and State of Control, and more. See you next time.
The network for the AV industry.
What are you listening to?
This
is AV.
This
is AVNation.
This is AVNation.
Hi, this is Jennifer Goodyear
and Erica Carroll
from the Women in AV podcast, where we are encouraged by the incredible stories of women in AV.
Listen in on fun, empowering conversations as we chat with inspiring women, breaking barriers and creating their own path in the industry.
Check out Women in AV on avnation.tv or wherever you get your podcasts.